Thank you. And Kaylee, what about you?
So we were living in North Carolina, and the educational system there was a little bit different, and my husband was traveling a lot. He's a pilot, and so we wanted to be able to travel with him. So we wanted that flexibility, and we knew that we were only there in transition, so we weren't going to be staying there for good. And so then we thought that would be the best option. And it really has turned out. I've also just graduated actually my son just graduated from college. My daughter, I've graduated too, actually. My daughter graduated last year, and she's at St. A's in her second year. When we moved here to New Hampshire, I couldn't see putting them on a bus, on a snowy day, because I wasn't used to that anyway. So it was partly acclimating to that. And then of course for us, it was our faith as well, having the opportunity to impart our faith and teach them that part of it. So, for many reasons really, but it all worked out really well because my youngest son, we did do a little bit of private school. And when he was at the private school, he was diagnosed with dyslexia. And because of that, and seeing his needs, we were very, very grateful that it all worked out, that he was home, because the services that he would have received, at least at our local school, wouldn't have been good enough, at least. And now I'm a certified teacher, so I kind of knew about that too. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was great. Thank you. Darlene, what is your story?
Okay, mine was medical reasons. I had 3 young children, and one of them was on life support. And that changed our dynamics from school and daycare to a cocoon of taking care of Annabelle, who was sick. And that took about a year of homeschooling because I wanted them all to be together because she was so sick. I didn't want her to be at home alone. So we all just kind of cocooned. And after the year was off, we kept going. I tried going back and forth, but I like the freedom of homeschooling, teaching my children about where I'm from, how I grew up. It was a medical reason, and I've graduated 1 this year, and 2 teenagers, and a 4th one who's still in 4th grade, and another one will be coming soon, adopting a little girl. So I'll be constantly homeschooling, I guess. So, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
And I have cats that are not homeschooled, but so I'm sorry, you'll hear books.
It's part of it, part of being home.
Oh boy.
Thank you so much, Darlene. And how about you, Kristen?
Well, we had a little bit more of a journey to homeschooling. So we started out really with private schools, and that worked really well. But we moved, I have 3 children. The oldest 2 were junior high age, and we decided to make a switch of schools for them, which left my then elementary school child going to public school. And that transition did not go well. So we let that kind of go on for a while. I think it's not that the school was bad, it was not the right place for her. And it took us, we really, really tried. And I had a friend who was homeschooling and connected to a homeschool community, and I was sharing our story, and it was a real struggle. So I was leaning on this friend quite a bit, and finally decided this is not working. So why are we forcing it? She's miserable. And we homeschooled, and I wasn't thinking it was going to be for any length of time, but it really was the most beautiful experience I have ever had with her parenting. And we just had this fabulous year, and I was introduced to a really great group, and the other 2 asked, can we do that too? So we ended up homeschooling all 3. We started, my youngest was in 4th grade, and then my middle was in 7th, and my oldest was in 9th. So I just encourage you all. I've talked to a lot of parents this year who are worried about transitioning, and they just want to homeschool for the 1 year, and they don't have it figured out. And, it can work really well. Like we did not plan on homeschooling, so we didn't have like all these months of, you know, figuring out what you need to do, but you really can do it, and you really can do it in a short amount of time. So you don't have to have it all figured out on day one. So it's been a good experience. And I've graduated too. So I have 3 kids. So I have one senior, one's a sophomore in college, and then I have a senior in college.
Great. Thank you so much. And that actually segues really nicely into Lauren's next question.
All right, panelists, what are some of the positives and possible challenges you have encountered in your homeschool journey? Additionally, you can answer this together or separately. Has COVID-19 affected homeschool learning? Kaylee, would you like to start?
Sure. So positives, there's an innumerable amount. I can't even think of, I mean, there's so many, just family time, memory making, very spontaneous opportunities that, you know, the flexibility of the schedule, being able to, for example, I had trees cut in my yard for, you know, years ago, and going out there and having the kids see that and then talk about the rings of the tree and the whole thing. I mean, just everything that you can do with just daily life, that I love. And we really, I think my kids have really benefited from that, and all those little memories. Conflicts or difficulties, possibly the only thing, and it was probably just focused on my situation, was my husband did fly and he was gone a lot. So not being around family, sometimes that support was difficult as far as having that, maybe that break. But I think, I know what I did for me was I was very diligent with scheduling. So when it was bedtime, it was bedtime. So the mom could have some time. Same thing in the mornings. When it was time to wake up, it was time to wake up. So sticking to a schedule was really, really good. And then, has anything changed with COVID? We did a lot of sports. My youngest boy does a lot of sports, and that probably is the only thing, that particular outlet. But as far as the homeschool group, we're still coming together, you know, outside with social distancing, and he's still seeing friends. And in the fall, now in a couple of weeks, he'll start doing the group again. So I don't think it really has changed too much. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Darlene, would you like to respond next?
Sure. For me, being able to experience my children's growth, learning together, seeing it firsthand versus hearing about it from someone else, freedom of education. We could be doing calculus on my bed or in the backyard, you know, emotional freedom, you know, I can connect with my children. At any point, there'll be a cat or a chicken or a child in a mask going through my office, you know, that's something I wouldn't be able to get if they were in school. Close family ties, well-rested teenagers, because for some reason they need to sleep till almost noon, and that wouldn't work in public school. Individual, and I actually made a list before this started, individual and purposeful educational plans for my children, my own schedule. Snow days are not an issue. So, okay, so now some of the cons. Having that responsibility for your children's education, it can be a heavy weight, but I think we were born with that. When we have children, we have that responsibility, so it's kind of not a con. The financial constraints, buying all the supplies, field trips, but you still need to do that in public schools. So always being home with your children. I don't see that as a con, but some folks may. But then that's where you need grown-up friends to, you know, take some time away. Limited team activities with their peers, not really. So actually, I don't have any cons. You know, I tried listing some, but no. Okay, COVID. The only thing we've lost is Nerf days. Once a month we would play Nerf, and that's the only thing we've lost. So no, we still go where we usually go with social distancing. So, oh boy. What did I say? Bye, Annabelle. Here. Bye. Okay. I don't have a closed door policy. Even when I close it, they still text me or come right in. So, okay. So I think I went through everything, pros, cons, and children in mask. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. That was great. Kristen, would you like to go next?
Sure. So cons, I don't think I have a lot of cons, but there definitely are challenges. And I think that, you know, for me, we just learned as we went and worked through those. So some challenges might be a curriculum that's not working. Sometimes we push through and you just have to do that. And other times we switched it. And I would say, don't be afraid to switch if you need to. Scheduling, we went through a couple, like what works for your kids, and the challenge for me was what worked for my kids didn't work for me. So finding a balance, but those are all things that I think it's just, you know, living life, you know, and figuring things out as you go on, and it's fun, you know, and at the end, we kind of finally figured out what works for us. And that was really great. So positives, just a family time. So when I started that year, coming out of what really was kind of borderline, really difficult situation, we had so much time to just read on the couch. So we did read alouds, and just that time of coming together and learning together and reading stories together really was just great. So I loved having that time, and it's harder to have that time when you're in school. When we were in private school, there's a lot of positives with that, but you know, we were commuting and it was a long day and we sacrificed a lot of that family time. So it's nice to have that back. I think the biggest thing is the flexibility and the individualized learning. So now that I'm my third child as a senior in high school, we've done the high school three times, and we've done it very differently for each because they're different kids. My middle child is just, she's still a sponge. You know, you think of younger kids like just a sponge, like just are curious and interested in everything. She still is. And she really had the time to pursue a lot of different types of learning I don't think she would have had time for if we weren't homeschooling. So I know for her, being able to do that. And she was more of a like really seeking out difficult classes so we could find the difficult classes for her and make more of an honors level type of learning. And then for the ones who were like, okay, we like learning, but not that much, you know, you can kind of cater to what works for them and the challenge that they need. They all need to be challenged, but they don't necessarily all need to be challenged to the same degree. COVID-19 didn't change a lot in terms of academics because we were home, but it did affect activities. So art got canceled. You know, we were in the same boat as a lot of other people with, you know, okay, well, what do we do now? And, you know, what can you learn now that you have even more time? So we had some projects and things going like that, but it was mostly outside activities, which are important because that's your time for group interaction and getting out of the house and things like that. But it certainly wasn't the impact of being in a school situation and then being home.
Great, thank you. Okay, so Valerie, would you like to answer that question? I'll just repeat it one more time. What are some of the positives and possible challenges you have encountered in your homeschool journey? Has COVID-19 affected homeschool learning?
I really enjoyed hearing what everybody else said, and I can agree with just about every one of those pros. I think, like other people said, I really enjoyed the opportunity to spend time with my kids, the togetherness that our family enjoyed by having the opportunity to learn together. I really loved seeing my kids curious and eager to learn, and I really wanted to foster and I encourage them in that. And I've really seen homeschooling has just helped them to be interested in everything. And so that's a real pro. And I think, I don't know if this is really a con, but homeschooling takes a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And so you have to choose what you don't do in order to homeschool. And I know a lot of us here as moms would only be able to work part-time or have to stay home, which I know that's not something everybody can do. Also, you know, now that I only am homeschooling one because I've graduated 3, I've realized that I have not like fixed things in my house for the last 20 years. And it's just, there's just not a lot of time for other things when you're living the homeschool lifestyle, because you're always with your kids and you're responsible for their education. And so there's time to do all these things, but there's other things that have to be sacrificed. So that can be tricky to navigate. Oh, and COVID. So I think, like Kaylee mentioned, I had a daughter in sports, and that was interrupted. I think that's everybody's experience, though, not just homeschoolers. We like to do a lot of field trips, and when we're studying with things, there's no field trips happening, so that aspect of our homeschooling has been shut down a little bit. And it was, you know, I think for teenagers, especially middle schoolers, it can get lonely when you're not with your peer group. So it's been harder to be intentional about that and help them, you know, keep their connections. I'll mention one other thing. It's harder to manage screen time during COVID as well, because they're home so much and, you know, don't have as much to do or as many opportunities. So they can be tempted to waste a lot of time on screens, and when you're home, that's a big challenge. I think that's it.
Thank you all so much. And now that leads to our next question. What advice would you give to someone who is considering homeschooling or is just starting out? And Kristen, maybe we begin with you.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think for me, when I was first starting out, it was really helpful to lean on someone who had been there. Because it is overwhelming. I'm a teacher, so I'm used to curriculum, I'm used to a classroom, but still taking all that responsibility on your own. You know, when you teach in a school, they give you a curriculum. When you're homeschooling, you have so many choices. So it's nice to just have someone help navigate that with. And I know, I'm sure you have lots of resources at the library. There's lots of people in the community. We're all like here to help you out. We were helped, and that's what we're here for. So I would say if you find someone, and lean on them, and don't be afraid to lean on them.
That's great. Thank you. And Valerie, what would you say?
I would say that, you know, to have a relaxed attitude, because children grow and they learn and they're interested in things. And if we kind of go with, you know, their pace and don't stress things, they're going to do great things. It's not a stressful thing. I mean, it gets more stressful when they're in high school because you're navigating more things, but when they're little or in grade school, just take it easy, enjoy learning together, and just see what comes of it.
Thank you. And Darlene, how about you? And I just realized we have 2 white kitties sort of in 2 different panels here.
It's not a kitty.
So, Darlene, what would you say to someone just starting out homeschooling or just considering it? What words of advice or suggestions would you give?
I know I'm on the board for Homeschooling Coalition, but I would suggest going to the site and reading the information. Contact your representative. And my cat says, get a cat. No. Talk to your representative. In the evenings when I'm in my office, I leave my phone on, and I've had a number of calls where I just listen. Sometimes someone is a little stressed out about this journey they're about to take, and I just listen. So I'm not saying that we all do this, Valerie. I'm not volunteering anyone, but get to know your representative for information. And beyond that, okay, there's homeschooling. It's wonderful. Your family is wonderful, but you need to do some self-care, okay, and include some fun in the routine. It's great to do school all the time, but you know, you need to play as well, okay, because this homeschooling journey is something your family will remember forever. And we remember how things make us feel. We don't remember what's said to us, but how it makes us feel. And you want, when your children get to the other end of this, they remember how it made them feel, because they may be homeschooling too, you know. So I guess my advice is don't get bogged down. Reach out to people. You never know who will help you, okay? There are the homeschooling parents. They've done it. I've done it. Reach out, okay? Get some help, and don't get stressed out with COVID and homeschooling. COVID is one thing. Homeschooling is beautiful. COVID is over here. Homeschooling is beautiful, okay? I'm sorry. I make video games for a living, so I'm trying to give a positive message, because a lot of people have been forced into this to consider homeschooling because of COVID, and we don't want them to be in the same conversation, you know. It's like homeschooling is a right that a parent has, and if you want to exercise that right, do it, okay? And okay, I'm all done.
Thank you, Darlene. And that leads us to Kaylee. Do you have any words of wisdom or suggestions for anyone just starting out?
Well, I would say definitely it's a partnership also of your spouse. You make sure your spouse is involved in the decision making as well, whether it's curriculum or daily activities. Make sure you're including your spouse. And then another one was definitely trust in your own instincts. Don't compare. Try your hardest not to do that, whether it's comparing to state standards or comparing to what somebody else may be capable of doing with their funding. That's probably your enemy right there. You have to try to be content and happy with what you're doing for your children the best that you can. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Because I have heard some people say, oh, this person's so crafty and that's not something I'm bringing to the table. And so that was an aspect of homeschooling I hadn't thought of, was just everyone does have talents that they're bringing, and there is a possibility of just comparison.
Yeah.
So it's great to just leave that alone.
Yes, it's healthy too.
Yes, amen to that. Thank you.
Okay, so Valerie, would you like to discuss some of the beginning processes of how do you homeschool? What forms do you fill out? And maybe go over your website as well.
Sure.
So I'm going to give you the right to share your screen.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so as Darlene mentioned, the New Hampshire Homeschool Coalition has an incredible website that people that came before me have set up and keep up to date. And just about anything that you would ask or are looking for can be found on the site. So I wanted to show you a few things. The New Hampshire Homeschool Coalition supports all kinds of homeschooling, and they they provide a page on the legal requirements here. We recommend that you actually go to the links on the legal requirements and read the documents that the Department of Education have put out. But since they're full of kind of legalese jargon, the Homeschool Coalition has put together a summary to help you walk through that. The legal requirements in New Hampshire are incredibly easy. All you need to do is write a letter and submit it to your SAU. There's a few other options for that are listed on this site, but most people submit the letter to their SAU, telling the SAU that you're going to be homeschooling. And on this site here, the New Hampshire Coalition site, there's a sample letter that you can download and fill out. Let me see if I can find it to bring it up on the screen here. Here it is. So you can download this letter and just fill it out for your children and submit it to your SAU. You only have to submit this letter once. So if you homeschool multiple years, you end up trying it this year and you love it and you just keep going, you don't have to actually submit the letter again. And it's a very basic, just your child's date of birth, some basic information that you're homeschooling. On the other end of the year, the law requires that you either have an evaluation with a certified teacher or take a standardized test. We have some evaluators that can do an evaluation for you listed on the website, people that we know are experienced with homeschoolers. And there's also some options listed on the website for different exam options. A lot of parents choose a test that they can simply administer at home on their own computer. The kids don't even have to go somewhere. A very popular one is the California Achievement Test, which is a test that you can take in one day and gives results on your children's academic progress through the year. Let me scroll down here to the evaluation and portfolio. So you can look these things up for more information on the website, but basically you need to keep a list of your children's reading material, and I would say also a list of the curriculum that you're using, and keep samples of your children's work. If you're going to do an evaluation instead of a test, you just meet with the evaluator and they'll look at the reading list and they'll go through the children's samples and they'll talk to your child and write you up an evaluation for the year. And both the evaluation and the test cost a little bit, less than $100 for the end of the year. But that's about it. And it might have sounded like a lot, but it's actually very simple. A letter and a test or a meeting. That's about it for New Hampshire. So let me go back up here. So other things that I just would want to point out for resources on the website, like I mentioned, there's the legal requirements are listed here. There's also a section on getting started, and a lot of the moms already mentioned some of the things on there, but it's laid out. We have frequently asked questions, which we might cover some of those tonight. If you go over to resources, I'm going to bring you down to the curriculum section. The first thing that, once you've decided to homeschool and you've written your letter, the first thing you're going to need to do is plan what educational materials you're going to use, and that can be daunting. And I think one of the moms mentioned, really, find a friend to talk to if you're finding it overwhelming. On the New Hampshire Homeschool Coalition website here, they have a list of general curriculum suppliers, and it's daunting. It's long. There's so many curriculum suppliers out there. You'll have no lack of places to look. But I don't know if maybe the other moms would recommend something different, but I really am partial to the Rainbow Resource Center. They're a curriculum source with customer service professionals that will answer all your questions on any educational material that you're considering. They're listed on here on general suppliers. And I know other parents might have other favorite curriculum suppliers, but these companies that make and supply curriculum for homeschoolers are usually very helpful and can answer your questions when you call them if you have a specific question. The resource page for curriculum goes into more specific kinds of curriculum. If you're looking for something for science, there's hundreds of links on this page. So it's something that you might want to peruse. We also have listed tutors that we've vetted and evaluators for your end of the year, testing options, all on the resources site. And you will probably want to try to connect with other homeschoolers in your area. So there's a list of support groups that are checked to make sure they're still active every year, and they have contact information for each one of them. Oh, look, there's a cat on there, on the books, on the physics book. So that's also a piece of, getting started is, finding your books, but also finding your people so that, you can do things with others. Even in this time of quarantining, if you find a couple other like-minded families to do things outside, it's, that's a great opportunity to follow up with. The New Hampshire Homeschool Coalition has a Facebook page that you can join, and you can ask questions, and you'll get many, many responses from seasoned homeschoolers and other people interested in the same things that you're asking about. It's a very active Facebook page. And so you can link to that through the website as well. And I think that's all that I was going to point out there. Was there anything else, Paulina?
I think that's covered it beautifully. Thank you so much. And I think at this point, if those are the things that you wanted to highlight, that brings us to Lauren's next piece.
Yeah, so we might run a little bit over an hour, so I hope that's okay. But we can spend about 20 minutes or so just going over any questions that any of our viewers have. So feel free to write them into the chat, or I'll go ahead and I will unmute everybody. Or you can, how about I just let you unmute yourself, so that way if you have a question, you can just go ahead and let us know. Feel free to either turn your video on or leave it off. That's totally fine. And once I see some questions, I'll just start calling on people. All right. All right. So I don't see any questions at the moment. I have a question. How difficult is it to plan curriculum for one age opposed to your other age students, children? Would somebody on the panel like to answer?
So say it one more time. I'm sorry, Lauren.
So how difficult is it planning curriculum for, if you have a 4-year-old opposed to your 9th grader?
Well, here again, without an education, I mean, I am a teacher, but if I didn't have my background, one of the things that I would do, or one of the first things I remember recommending to a parent was, at the library, there's these books that say what your kindergartner should know, what your first grader should know, and that kind of thing. And you could also find that online. So it's kind of, and it does change state to state. Again, looking at those state standards, you don't have to look at those, but you can just do a Google of what the expectations are per grade. And then you have to really always consider your child, what kind of a learner your child is. People know that. Is your child a visual learner? Are they more auditory? What is it? And then kind of work with that as you start trying to decide what curriculum to use. And that's another beautiful thing about homeschooling, because if your child has interest in particular like fishing or something, you can choose all their storybooks, or the majority of their storybooks, to have that theme. So it's kind of neat to be able to do that as well. Anyway.
Great, thank you. So somebody did ask a question, and the question is, if a new homeschooler is feeling overwhelmed, how would you tell them to start? Does any panelists have any ideas on that one?
I would encourage them, like I said before, to really relax and enjoy their children, and you know, let homeschooling kind of naturally blossom, in a sense. I don't want it to sound silly, but read books with them, do read alouds. And again, the library is a great resource, and you can ask your librarian for suggestions, but read, and find what they're interested in, and really dig in there. And with the core subjects that you might be more concerned about, like math and grammar, you can start those. And when you're homeschooling, you're tutoring, your time is incredibly effective. And so you might think that, you know, I'm not spending enough time on math, or I'm not spending enough time on grammar, but because you're just home and you're tutoring, they make progress very quickly. And so, you know, I would take small blocks of time and work on their math concepts or their grammar concepts, if that's appropriate for what you're doing in their age. And other than that, just begin to dig into their interests and read together.
Great. Does anybody else from our viewers here have any questions?
Ooh, I do. I think I'm unmuted.
Oh, yep.
I'm sorry. I can't do the texting. I've got my kids in the background. First of all, thank you so much for hosting this panel. This is wonderful. I know a handful of the ladies on the panel. And I so appreciate that you guys are doing this. I think this is fantastic. Big question for us for today. What do you do when your kids just don't want to do their work?
And I suspect all the panelists will be able to answer this one. So speak up, please, and just share.
Yes, please tell me.
Off the cuff, I'd say bribery. Find out what they like doing.
My children are listening. Be careful what you say.
Sorry. Do nice things. I have 3 teenagers. Well, the eldest is 18 and she's not a teenager anymore. Okay, she's a grown-up. But I have 2 teenagers. One would do his work, but he needs to see a purpose to doing the work. The other one, the one in the mask that came in, I have to frame it as something she could be interested in. Like that mask she's wearing, she drew it, designed it, did the listing of what she needed, found the sources to get it, and made the mask. So we were able to put multiple subjects in there. So I kind of, okay, I conned them. I'm sorry. I had them do a project on Homer. So to get them to read the book, I had them listen to it so that we could make a video game about it. So I don't know. I use evil tricks. Sorry. Candy. I have lollipops always. I always have a stash of lollipops. You know, if you complete certain things, I give you lollipops.
Okay.
I know that's not a very good thing, okay? I use whatever I can, okay?
That sounds good.
Gaming time, extra gaming time, whatever you gotta do, okay? I don't know.
You get it, you make it happen. No, good to know. Thank you.
I would just add to that. Like, I think for me, just same kind of thing. Just find out what they want to do, or give them those rewards, or you want to go play with this person or do video games, whatever, after you got to finish this. I think also the flexibility of choosing, allowing them to have some say in what you're learning. So if you give them, you could be, okay, I want you to read 5 of these 10 books, but you get to have a choice in them. It gives them a little bit more say, which can be a little bit more motivating. So that worked pretty well.
That's great. All right, so I have 2 more questions in here so far. The next question is, how do you suggest a full-time working mother begin to homeschool? Does anybody have suggestions for this person?
So I wonder if Kim could mention how old her children are,
Yeah.
because that would really make all the difference.
Yes.
7. And Kim, are you working from home? You work nights. Okay, so like I mentioned before, that that's a tough situation with homeschooling when you have other commitments. You can't always be home. If you are both home during the day, and other panelists can definitely chime in here, I would try to be especially organized about what goals you have for your home education, so that you can be very streamlined. Doing school with a 7-year-old, you can do an amazing amount of excellent learning in just a couple hours a day, if you're organized, and like Darlene said, you make it fun and you have rewards so that they are motivated to do what you've set out for them in that time frame. So I suggest being organized and streamlined, and make it fun. I don't know if other people had thoughts for that.
I'd like to add, over the years, I've worked full-time and homeschool, and there were nights where at 8 o'clock I'm doing schoolwork with one child that doesn't like being up early, so she likes sleeping late and stay up late. So at 10 at night, one night we're doing calculus, which worked. Or the early riser at 5 in the morning, we're doing schoolwork before I go to work. I'm not sure I'm the poster child for that, but I've done it, and I graduated 1 so far, and I think they're doing okay. It can be done. You're a mom, you can figure it out. You can do it. You love your child, you'll be able to figure it out, okay? Find like-minded parents that can help you, okay? So.
I've worked full time now for the past year. Of course, I only have 1 left, and he is 14. And it can be done. You definitely, very much like Valerie and Darlene just said, as far as making sure you do have a schedule, being realistic with yourself and realizing that school doesn't have to happen at a particular time. Like Val said, it could be at different times. And like Darlene said, it could be at different times of the day. Preferably sometimes, depending on your own child, they may learn best at different times. It may not be in the morning, it may be in the afternoon. It really depends on them. So knowing that, and then giving yourself the opportunity to be okay with doing school at whatever time, or even covering a subject or 2 on a particular day and not feeling like I have to do math 5 days a week, I have to do language arts 5 days a week. Being flexible with yourself and with your child. Those are really good things. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, so I have another question here. Can homeschoolers do sports and other extra activities at public schools?
Yes. My oldest was very much into soccer, and he did soccer at the high school as well as winter track and spring track. And it went really, really great. You just have to be on top of, depending on what you want to do and how you want to use it. For high school, there were tryouts. So just being on top of knowing when things were happening so you didn't miss it. Mm-hmm. So whether it's you call the school, they were actually very helpful in helping me get him connected. I also had friends who had kids playing those sports, so they were able to give me a little bit of a heads up on some things that were going on. But it worked really well for him.
That's great.
The kids can also do clubs, after school clubs and activities. They can be in band. So they can pretty much join in anything, though each SAU might have slightly different rules and guidelines that they go by. But if you make a good relationship with your SAU, usually that your child can do just about anything that they want through the school system,
including taking classes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are there any other questions? And I know that, you know, this has been a lot of information. And so if you have questions that come to mind, I'm sure later on when you're dissolving everything, we'll send out some contact information for everybody as well.
So as this meeting is coming to its end, we have included the list of resources that Lawrence mentioned, both links and book titles for further exploration of this topic. And Lauren and I also have a small sample of books that we have at our respective libraries, just to give you a little visual. So we have Rethinking School, Minimalist Homeschooling, Differently Wired, Homeschooling Bravery, Free to Learn, Unhurried Homeschooler, How Children Learn, Kindergarten Prep, and that's just a small sample. We have at Lane an education section, which runs the gamut of a bunch of different approaches. So if anyone would just like to delve in further to explore a lot of different things or consider homeschooling more, please do look at our catalog and then contact us, and we'll be, for our Hampton patrons, we'd be very happy to get you connected with some really helpful books and resources. And Lauren, I know you have some titles as well.
Yeah, so I also wanted to let you all know that a lot of our libraries also have the NHHC's guidebook.
Yes.
So we have these, some of us circulate them, some of us just have them as a reference in our libraries. So if, you know, staring at the computers a little bit too much, come into your libraries, make an appointment, call us, and we can also get these in your hands as well. And then, yeah, so we have some different titles here, the homeschooling option, homeschooling the child with ADD, and other special needs. A new title that just came in, The Everything Guide to Homeschooling. And upon recommendation, we just started the Practical Homeschooling magazine. So that we have as well. And, you know, so these are just some things to browse when you're, you know, for ideas and things like that. But we also, again, in terms of like education, our library has EBSCOhost, and it has so many different databases in it. So you can search for all different grade levels, all different learning abilities, all these different resources so that you can do different kinds of projects at home as well. And so I created a document that I'll share with everybody. Let me, oops, I just clicked the wrong button. Just quickly share it. It's a lot of information on it, so I'm not going to go through everything. So this just kind of broken out with some beginning resources at the top here. And there are so many free online learning resources as well. So I'm not sure how many of these resources any of our panelists actually use, but a lot of them are great, like homework helpers, I think, or to help you with kind of like exploring some topics, or like there's coding, free coding websites. Then just a small sampling of those curriculum options that Valerie mentioned. Some websites if you do have varying learning abilities at home. And then there are tons of support groups. So again, like I posted some here, but Valerie's website on the NHHC's website has a ton more. So, and then just a couple extra book recommendations as well. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and I will send this out, but the NHHC's website has so many more resources on it. Yeah, so let's see, where are we?
And there was a question regarding, do the libraries represented here have foreign language learning subscriptions?
Yeah, so our library, we have, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of a different one now. Mango Languages, and that one has like over 150 different languages you can learn. And then we also have some books, I'd have to double check to see how many books we have in the library itself for what languages, but that's at the North Hampton Library. What about you, Paulina?
We have Universal Class, which includes languages, and then I believe we have transparent language. So there we do have those resources. And then we do have, of course, books as well. And I think particularly, we're always happy to try to purchase materials that people suggest. And I think particularly now when the interlibrary loan was for a while suspended, we just were going ahead and, you know, if it seemed like a reasonable addition to our collection, we were happy to add those. So if people have ideas or want to see something in the collection, please do talk to your library about possibly purchasing materials.
Yeah, that's something I'd love to remind people. They forget that we are happy to buy things for you, so you don't have to buy it. And especially if it aligns with a hole that we need to fill or anything like that, always ask us, and we are happy. And sometimes if we can't buy it, there's another option. And there's also, I've had some homeschoolers, schooling parents come out to me already, and they will give me a list of what they want. So if you have lists of books that you know that is going to fit in your curriculum, or just ideas that you have, bounce them off of us librarians, and we're happy to get as many books as we can in your hands and any other resources as possible.
Academy is awesome. Give our warmest thanks to our panelists for their time and expertise. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Valerie and Kristen and Darlene and Kaylee. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting.
So thank you, panelists, again. This was really fantastic. Your information was really amazing. Does anybody have any other closing questions or thoughts?
And I would say too, thank you to our viewers for your interest and your inquiries. We really appreciate it.
Great. Okay. Well, everybody, thanks again. Have a great night, and feel free to email any of those emails that we just shared with you. We are happy to help. And again, contact your local libraries. We're here for you.
Yes. Thank you all so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.